Welcome to The Explainer. So, in early 2026, the Middle East was just plunged into war. But it didn't start with some big invasion. Nope. It kicked off with a failed meeting, a single targeted strike, and a huge assassination. And what came next? A crisis that just completely upended alliances, choked the world's energy supply, and put a new, pretty vengeful leader in charge of Iran. So, let's break down how it all went down in just a few absolutely chaotic days. The war didn't actually start with missiles. It started with these words right here. On February 28th, the U.S. president made his objective, well, crystal clear. This wasn't just going to be some military operation, it was a call for regime change, plain and simple. And that one statement, it pretty much became the justification for everything that was about to unfold. Okay, so let's get into it. It all really started with one single, incredibly dramatic day. So think about this for a second. On the morning of February 28th, diplomats were still at the table, still talking. But by that same afternoon, U.S. and Israeli jets were already in the air over Iran. And by the evening, Iran's supreme leader, Ali Khamenei, was dead, killed in a targeted strike right in Tehran. In less than a single day, negotiation turned into assassination, and just like that, the region was at war. All right, so with its 86-year-old leader gone, Iran's response was, well, it was swift and it was violent. But here's the twist. It wasn't just aimed at its usual enemies. No, the retaliation hit a really surprising target, a former friend actually, and in doing so, it sent a massive shockwave through the entire global economy. Now, to really get how shocking this was, you have to look at the relationship between Iran and Qatar. For years, these two were partners. They shared the world's largest natural gas field. They even had a defense pact. Qatar was the go-between, the mediator for Iran and the West. But then, overnight, that friendship just vanished. Iran unleashed a barrage of missiles right on Qatar's most critical gas facilities. Just like that, a key ally became an enemy. So in response to these absolutely devastating attacks on its energy infrastructure, the giant company Qatar Energy did something drastic. They declared force majeure. And look, this is a huge deal. It's basically a legal way of saying to the entire world, hey, because of something totally beyond our control, like a war, we can't fulfill our contracts anymore. In other words, the natural gas supply was being shut down. And the global impact? Oh, it was immediate and just staggering. With Qatar's gas offline and Iran blockading the super important Strait of Hormuz, the world's energy supply line was essentially choked off. Ship traffic through that strait, it plummeted by 97%. 97! Suddenly, the entire global economy was staring right down the barrel of a full-blown energy crisis. So while the rest of the world was grappling with this energy crisis, Iran was facing a massive crisis of its own. See, the assassination didn't just kick off a war. It created a huge power vacuum. With the country under attack, the regime was scrambling to answer one single question. Who was going to lead them now? The death of Ali Khamenei, it created a power vacuum that people had been speculating about for years. The man had ruled for over 3 decades. And now, smack in the middle of a war, the Islamic Republic had to answer the most critical question about its own future. Who would be the next supreme leader? Okay, so there were a few powerful figures in the running. You had your established insiders, guys like Alireza Arafi and Sadiq Larjeni. Then there was Hassan Khomeini, who had that super prestigious name of the revolution's founder. And then you had the most controversial candidate of all, Mujtaba Khamenei, the son of the leader who had just been assassinated. So after days of really intense, super secretive deliberations, and from what we hear under heavy pressure from the powerful Revolutionary Guard, the decision was made. Iran's new supreme leader was going to be Mojtaba Khamenei. A son was chosen to succeed his father. And this choice, it was absolutely seismic. As analysts were quick to point out, the great irony here is that the whole 1979 revolution was fought to overthrow a hereditary monarch, the Shah. And now the Islamic Republic seemed to be embracing the exact same kind of dynastic succession it was founded to destroy. So, as Iran is dealing with its controversial new leader, the international community gets together at the United Nations. But its response to this widening war, well, it would turn out to be fractured and deeply contentious. So, on March 11th, the UN Security Council comes out with Resolution 2817, and the language was pretty forceful. It condemned Iran's attacks, it reaffirmed the right of its neighbors to defend themselves, and it demanded an end to that blockade of the Strait of Hormuz. But the vote wasn't unanimous. Not at all. Both Russia and China abstained, and they called the resolution one-sided. Their argument was pretty simple, really. How can you condemn Iran's retaliation without also condemning the U.S. Israeli attack that kicked the whole thing off? This split vote just went to show how deeply polarized the world had become over this conflict. Meanwhile, back in Iran, the world didn't have to wait very long to hear from the new supreme leader. And his first message to his people and to his enemies wasn't delivered in a speech, but in a stark, written statement. The way he delivered it was a message in itself. 4 days after taking power, Mujtaba Khamenei was still basically a ghost. No video, no audio. His very first communication as supreme leader came as this disembodied text, a formal decree that just amplified all the tension and speculation swirling around him. And in that silent, written message, he left absolutely no doubt about his intentions. This statement wasn't a call for peace or de-escalation or diplomacy, not even close. It was a clear, unambiguous, and frankly chilling promise of revenge, not just for his father, but for every single Iranian killed. This was the opening statement of a new leader in a new war, leaving the entire world to wonder, what comes next?